Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Get Hired. I am Bill, the company's expert, and thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome. We're going to talk about how to get hired. You like how that works? And I'm here with my fabulous hair in my wonderful, colorful background that shows every hint of personality. And yes. And just making sure my feed is okay because it doesn't look like it's really working. Oh, there we go. Okay, 8 people are here. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so it is connected. It's always a good thing. And it allows for a very professional intro too. So thank you for joining me tonight. If you are between jobs right now, if you are looking to improve your career, you've come to the right place. I want to start out by saying everybody who's between jobs right now, or you are concerned for your job and are wanting to brush up on your job search skills. Okay, first of all, it's a very brave thing to do because we are at one of our low points in that time. And it feels like crap. It really does. And it's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of people are afraid of it because it's a big mystery. It's a mystery box. Nobody knows how to do it. And everyone gets nervous. But I'm here to tell you that first of all, you are a lot more awesome than you feel right now. Okay, that's the first thing you need to know. Second thing is that this is a skill like any other, and it's actually not that hard to learn. Okay, when it comes to discovering jobs, that's a skill like any other. There's not a lot to it, but you'd be amazed how many people don't know how to go about doing it. Second thing, once you've discovered where the jobs are, how to put yourself forward for them, that also is a skill you can learn like any other, and it's actually not that hard either. So that's the great news for everybody. Whatever age you are, whether you're just starting out or you're a veteran, you're pushing 60, whatever, it's never too late to learn this stuff, and it's really not that hard. So that's what we're going to connect with today. And if you're on the desktop, you should see a chat, as there is in every live stream. And if you see that, ask questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer questions. So that's what I'm here to do. And yeah. So just while we're waiting for the first questions to roll in, okay, I just want to let you know that I'm been doing these live streams once a week, every Wednesday. I've been experimenting with the time of day. So this is a bit of an experiment I've done this time last week, and it went really well. So I'm doing it again this week. And all of these live streams are going to be posted over on my second channel, The Company's Expert 2. So if you subscribe to my main channel, this one, The Company's Expert, go and subscribe to The Company's Expert 2. And then you can see all these if that's what you're into. If you're into that kind of thing, if you know what I'm talking about. Christopher Groth says, hello. Hello, Christopher. How you doing? It's great to see you here. Also want to shout out to all my channel members and also to my patrons. I have a handful of Patreons that patrons on Patreon, if I got that right, that are awesome, that have been supporting me for a while. So thank you very much. Here we go. Christopher says, how many times do you get passed up for the same promotion before you should consider a new company? Well, Christopher, that's going to depend on a couple of things. First of all, if you know the reason why, okay? Sometimes you don't know the reason why. All you know is you put yourself in for it and it doesn't happen. Now, sometimes when you see that, you can infer what happened by looking at who did get the job, who did get the promotion. If someone was promoted instead of you, that can be very revealing as to what they were looking for, okay? And if it's someone that's friends with the boss, then that's probably what they would have needed to see. And I don't know how realistic that is. If they were incredibly talented in a certain area, that's something. If they had skills in another area, okay, maybe they had sales skills or they had very good interpersonal skills, that kind of thing, okay? And sometimes there's other factors that you have no control over. So depending on which one of those you suspect it is, it's going to dictate how long you should tolerate that. Another factor, of course, is going to be what are your options? If it's very easy for you to jump to another company, great, there's an expression, right? Was it, I'm probably going to goof it up, but it's something like a prophet isn't respected in their own country or in their own town. We see that with hiring. Someone was asking me last time if they should apply for jobs in a different city and would that increase their chances? And I would say that all things being equal, without knowing any details or what industry or anything, I would say yes, because a lot of times the people who judge these things, whether they're recruiters or hiring managers, they seem to find a candidate who is coming from a different location, a different city. They're relocating. They tend to find them a little bit more exotic. It's this kind of subconscious thing going on that that candidate is more exotic, therefore more talented or more sought after. Now, it's complete crap, right? But that's how it's sometimes perceived. Okay, so why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you have to leave and go to a different company, sometimes they will see more of your value when they hire you than your existing company will see, because they're sort of taking you for granted, or they don't realize that you have certain skills or certain abilities, and consequently they're passing you over for a promotion, something like that. You can get that promotion by being hired into that role at another company where they have a vacancy, and they will regard you sometimes as having an edge over their internal candidate because you're an external candidate. So yes, that's going to depend on certainly those two factors. But thank you for the question. Hopefully that helps. Victor says hello from China. Hello, Victor. It's good to see you here, and thank you for joining us. Nishal says hello from Nepal. Nepal, that's Kathmandu, right? Capital Kathmandu. How can I effectively negotiate salary in an interview? Yeah, everybody wonders that. The answer is you can't. You can't negotiate salary in an interview. Okay, the way it works is that you have to have received an offer in writing before you can negotiate salary. Okay? The reasons for this is because try and imagine what it's like for the recruiter or hiring manager, usually the recruiter, the person who's in the process of selection, okay? They've got 10 candidates, 6 candidates, whatever, that are shortlisted. All of these candidates technically are qualified to do the job. So you could hire any one of them and they'd probably work out, okay? But you have to make that final decision. You have to pick one. Now imagine if one candidate said, well, I am grateful that you're considering me for this position, but I'm going to need double the salary to do it. Okay? So if you're the recruiter, are you going to consider should I perhaps give this person double the salary? No. In 99% of cases, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, I'm going to eliminate that candidate based on the fact that they're wanting more. Okay? There's an issue now with them. They're not satisfied with the pay range of this position. Okay? Which means that if I do offer the job to them, either I have to pay them double, which is just not in my budget, or I have to see if they'll take the existing salary, the approved salary for this position, but it seems like they won't be happy with it. Okay, so that makes them a high-risk candidate. So at the end of the day, what the recruiter will do is they'll just eliminate that candidate and go with one of the other 5. After all, you've got 6 to choose from. You have to eliminate 5 anyway, so this just gives them a reason to eliminate you, okay? So the only time when you can really negotiate salary is after you've received a job offer. They've said, okay, we want you. And the recruiter has discussed this with the hiring manager. They've all decided that they want you. They've done reference checks. They've done background checks. They've done all of that. They've put in that work for you. They've given you the offer, okay? And so now, if you were to say, no, I can't accept the offer, now it causes them a little bit of pain, okay? Because they've done work specifically for you that now they would have to redo all that work with somebody else, okay? They've also psychologically decided that they want you, okay? So if you then say, no, I'm backing out, they're disappointed, they're upset, they feel pain. They would love to just finish this process and have you sign, okay? So there's a little bit of bargaining power there, okay? And that's what you use to negotiate salary, okay? So you have to wait for the offer to come in. And once they've decided they want you, okay, then you can negotiate salary. And the way that is going to look, and I'm just sort of trying to summarize it here because it gets quite complex, but the bottom line is, you're going to give them a whole bunch of things. You're going to say, okay, this is fine, that's fine, this is fine, that's fine. Fine. Oh, I was hoping for more vacation. Oh, I was hoping for more sick days. Oh, I was hoping for a more flexible work schedule or workplace, whether I could do it remotely, or I was hoping for this, I was hoping for that. But it's okay. It's okay. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But salary, just listen, if you could scratch out that number right in this number, then we got a deal. So you make it easy for them, right? And it's going to take some form of that, okay? You can't propose something totally outrageous. It has to be reasonable, has to be like a little bit of a bump. But yeah, that's usually what that's going to look like. I have done a video that's an hour long talking about salary, okay, in the job search process, all the way from the application to the interview to the negotiating to the contract. So it's called Salary Negotiation, and it's on my channel. So just do a search for The Company's Expert Salary Negotiation if you want to get the full meal deal. And there you go. But that's a very intelligent question. Thank you for asking that. Okay. We got Victor. Victor here is asking a question. Recently, I passed the last round of interview with the managing director. For those of you who are not aware, the managing director is the CEO role. They refer to it like that in different countries. The recruiter called me 3 days later and asked about my expectation on compensation. I gave her a range, but haven't heard from her since last Friday. The hiring manager asked me to wait them. Should I just wait or email them something? Look, the reality is it doesn't matter, okay? But just in case there might have been a mix-up in communications, if you're worried that your last communication didn't get through, or maybe somebody went on vacation or something, yeah, email them again or call them again. If I had the choice, I would call rather than send an email. An email is easier to ignore, okay? A call is much more real and in your face. So if it were me and you're comfortable doing it, I would call. But it kind of doesn't matter. See, they're going to do what they're going to do, okay? And what a lot of people do is they sort of, how can I put this? They obsess about like every little tiny thing. Should I email after 2 days or 3 days, or should I wait 4 days, or should I leave a voicemail? And if I haven't heard back, then should I? People worry about this stuff. It really doesn't matter as long as your communication got through. Okay. So if this is like a last stage kind of thing, I would call. And if you get voicemail, I would follow up maybe a day or so later with an email. And then beyond that, that's all you can do. Okay. That's good. That's plenty. I think they've got your message, okay? If they are waiting to hear back from you, that's perfectly fine, okay? But the reality is that if you don't know this already, the salary expectation question, that's a trick question, okay? Because when they ask this question, everybody assumes that they're asking it legitimately. They're taking it at face value. They want to know how much money you need so they can try and accommodate you, or you can come to a certain agreement that's a good halfway house. People are very trusting because people are usually decent. What you don't realize is that this is a very manipulative, it's late, a manipulative artificial process, and they're not asking the question legitimately. They're not actually interested in how much money you need. They don't care about accommodating it. All they want to do is they want to see if you would be happy with the money they're going to pay you, okay? Now, yes, there are some exceptions to this when you get to higher levels or if they're like really in love with you, but 90 whatever percent of time, the vast majority of the time, the reason they ask this question is it's an elimination question. If you say a number higher than what they're wanting to pay or they've already decided they're pretty much going to pay, it's to eliminate you. They say, now the truth is revealed. I got the candidate to reveal to us that they would not be happy with the pay that we are willing to give them. So therefore, this candidate is no good. If we hire them, they will be dissatisfied with the compensation. That means that it will only be a matter of time before they leave because they're not happy. They don't feel this job is doing it for them. And we want someone who's going to be in this role a long time. They're going to be happy with this role. They're going to be thankful to be here. They're going to be passionate about doing their job. That's what we want. Okay? So it's very slimy. It's very underhanded, but that's why they ask this question. They say, so tell me, what are your salary expectations? And if it's over a certain amount, bam, eliminated. Right? Especially if they ask this question early in the process. There is a chance they could mean it genuinely, but that would only come at the very end of the process. We've decided that we love you. We would love to have you in this role, okay? You know, what's it going to take, right? Now, as you can appreciate, not every job, they're not really going to go through that step with every job. A lot of jobs, it pays what it pays. You know, I don't care who you get. They're getting paid X. Okay. That's just how it is. We're not going to budge on compensation. We're not going to bump it up. Everybody feels they should get more. Okay. Every single person probably on the planet, if you ask them, they feel they should get paid more, right? That's universal. So think about recruiters. Their business is talking to candidates 9 to 5, week after week, year after year, right? They've heard it all. They've seen it all. They know everybody, A, feels they deserve more, and B, will try to get more. Okay, so they know this, right? So all they're really asking the question for is to see if you're happy with the money they're going to pay. And if you basically say you're not, by saying I would need like way more, they go, okay, eliminated, right? So that's why I said 5 minutes ago, I said, you wait till you have an offer. Get the job first, okay? Then, once they've gone down the tunnel there, you know, dealing with you, they've decided they want you, they've drafted the contract, they've reached out to you and said, you know, can you sign it and return it? That's where you say, okay, yeah, no problem. I will sign it and return it. If you could just change this number, we're in business. And then you give them more stuff. I will start whenever you want. If you need any other information, please let me know. You know, very, very accommodating. You make it so easy for them to say yes. Okay, that's the only time when that stuff can work. Or they just, you know, like you're just some kind of superstar and they must have you at all costs. Yes, that's an exception too. But there you go. Now I'm starting early. I got my drink. It's like with every sip, I can feel myself getting closer to my grave. It's wonderful. Sir Smith, is that sir? You should have just called yourself Your Highness, you know? Hello, I only have a degree in economics, I guess, and no experience. Should I learn Excel, Python? Hey, I recognize this question. Have you asked me this before? And use certifications on my resume. I want to work as a data analyst or business analyst. Cool. Ambu says, big interview tomorrow. This will come in handy. I already accepted a salary amount. How and when it's the best time to negotiate a little raise on that? Well, once again, I mean, you guys you ask these questions that are great because they're opening like a huge can of worms. It's a big topic. That's when you talk about negotiating. Listen, sure, let's get into this. Negotiating something. You want something from someone, right? Now, they don't want to give it, okay? At least on a certain level, they don't want to give it. If you already have somebody working for you, why would you pay them more money if you don't have to? Right? Like, okay, you could do it to be nice and everything, but if you feel that they're not going to leave and they're going to do as good a job regardless, why would you pay them more money? Right? And while we're on the topic, if you do feel that their performance will go down if you don't, that kind of is the definition of a bad employee, right? Because technically, you're paid a certain amount of money to do a job. You signed a contract saying that you agreed to that. I will work for this pay to this job. Now you're turning around and saying, well, no, that's not good enough anymore. I know I said I would do this, but I'm not going to do it anymore. I need more money, and you better pay me more money, or my performance will decline. Okay? Now, what I'm saying is that from the perspective of the manager, that's a bad employee, right? Why would you pay more money to somebody who's holding you hostage like this and dishonoring their original agreement? Okay? If you were in that position and you had people working for you, that's probably how you would feel. Okay? So what I'm saying is that that's the manager's perspective on this, right? Now, you have to think, like, what would get them to pay you more? Okay. Now, you can appeal to sort of humanistic type things. Like if you've gone above and beyond and done an amazing job, way more than, your role really needed, and you're looking for a reward, you can possibly approach your boss at that point and say, like, look, I would love to get a little boost in my compensation, to make sure that I'm just as passionate in the future as I am now to do extra things and go above and beyond. Right? I mean, you could take advantage of that. Sometimes that'll work for people, but here's the thing. Technically, if they don't feel that your performance will decline, from a technical point of view, they would say no, because I've already got you and you're already doing a great job. Why would I pay more money for the same thing, right? So this is what you have to overcome, okay? So the way negotiation works is that you have to have alternate options. You have to be able to force somebody's hand. Nobody's going to give you more money because you ask. They're going to give you more money only because they feel they have no choice. I better do this, or else it'll be bad for me, okay? Now, if you were getting alternate job offers, for example, somebody was matching your compensation at this job, you could go back to your boss and say, look, somebody offered me a job, they're matching my compensation, can you give me a bit of a bump, and that would ensure that I don't leave, right? That's possible to do that. But the only way to negotiate with somebody is to have alternate options, okay? That's what everything depends on. If you have no other choice than to accept whatever they decide to give you, you can't negotiate. You have nothing to negotiate with. Okay? And threatening to do a worse job, like for your performance to deteriorate, that's not really a great thing because that has a whole bunch of negative consequences. Okay. Oh, from King. King, I got a super chat for $10. Thank you, King. I got my job because of this channel. Thank you. Congratulations. You should be very proud of yourself. And I'm glad that it worked out. And it's good to hear that you're prospering. So congratulations. I'm going to give you a hand because you did it yourself. Jack Alexander, good evening, Bill. I'm trying to get an inside sales job after not doing it for 5 years. Besides networking, how do I find companies which need inside sales people? Oh, Jack, I have a video for you. Maybe you've seen it, maybe not, but I will see if I can get it going here. Okay, just bear with me. Now, on my channel, there's a video called How Successful People Get Jobs. And it doesn't have a lot of views, actually. I'm quite surprised because of all the things that I've sort of shared with people. It's funny. It's like you give away real pearls and then you get nobody watching the video. And then you say something so basic and almost asinine and then it gets millions of views. So it's just a mystery of YouTube to me. Anyway, I guess it just wasn't action-packed enough. If I had more explosions and bikinis and things like this, maybe people would tune in. I don't know. You'd have to ask YouTube about that one. But I'm trying to pull it up right here because this walks you through step by step, okay, how you can, in your hometown, in your industry. Okay, now, inside salesperson, that is going to vary by industry. Okay, so if you do inside sales of industrial equipment, which is something that I have experience with, or industrial sales of, consumer products or whatever. I mean, right? There's going to be an industry usually. It's how to find people in that industry in your hometown, all the companies in that industry. God, why is it taking me so long here? I apologize. Just bear with me. Go and watch that video. It's called, like I said, How Successful People Get Jobs. And here we go. Okay, so let's see if I can share the screen here. Okay, so this is my channel. This is the video right here. Okay, so if you go to my channel, this is my YouTube channel, and then you look at videos and you can sort them any way you want, but if this is most recent to oldest, newest to oldest, right? Okay. And of course, I've lost it. Here we go. How successful people get jobs. And what I'm doing is I'm showing you basically between LinkedIn and Google Maps, okay, you could find all those companies in your hometown, in your industry. You could then go on LinkedIn, and using the power of LinkedIn, you could see inside those companies to the individuals, to the decision makers, the hiring managers, people that have the power to hire people. And you reach out to them. You say, hello. Usually you can do it with a little template kind of message. But basically you say, hello, I'm here. I'm an amazing inside salesperson. I have a lot of experience at that, and I can make you a lot of sales. Listen, if ever you're looking for an inside salesperson, let me know. I'd love to work at your company. I know you guys do great work. Best regards, just something like that. Now, most people you contact, they will not be looking for an inside salesperson right now, right at this exact time. Okay. But statistically, some of them will. Okay. So somebody has to hire an inside salesperson, and then right then, bam, they get this message from you. It's professional. It shows that you are passionate. It shows that you take the initiative, and it displays a lot of the skills that a successful inside salesperson would have to have anyway. You're demonstrating this to the hiring manager, okay? You're proactive, you're professional, you know how to network, you know what to say, you're making a very tempting proposition, right? They enjoy dealing with you. You're not saying anything weird. You're not putting all this high pressure on them and you're making them feel awkward. Nothing like that. It's very pleasant, and you're very persuasive, and you're displaying all your skills right there. Okay. So that can go very far. And if they happen to be looking for a person right now and you come along and you send them this message, you're like, hey, let's talk to this person. Right. So they're not hiring you based on your resume. They're hiring you based on what they've just experienced. They've interacted with you, they liked it, and they want more. Okay? So that's how that works. Okay? So check out that video. It kind of shows you the beginning of that. If you want the full meal deal, of course. The horses, of course. I have a course called Get Hired. The Get Hired course, it's right down there at the bottom of the screen, right there. You can see my fat fingers trying to point to it. There we go. So check that out. In fact, I'm going to close that other window. But excellent question. Okay. I like inside salespeople. You know, companies, inside salespeople can it's like a make or break thing for a lot of companies. Because basically, on the one hand, on one extreme, you could have inside salespeople being order takers. They just sit there, they answer the phone. You say, I'd like to order this. They go, okay, how many do you need? What's your address? Okay, thanks, bye. Or they could go above and beyond. They're super friendly, super pleasant. Customer gets off the phone with them. They feel, yeah, that went really well. I like dealing with them. They were helpful. I had a couple of technical questions and they answered them. It's really great to get that information so quickly and easily. You know, they were super friendly, super polite. Nothing was a problem. You know, I like that company. I want to deal with them more. You know, you can upsell them and it's very easy because they like you. They want to deal with you. And they trust you. They know you're not trying to push a bunch of crappy products on them in a very slimy, underhanded, deceptive way. So, you know, the world needs more good inside salespeople. Christopher Groth says, is it better to proactively reach out to potential new boss in an internal promotion stating interest in the position, or is that in poor taste? Well, Christopher, it is not in poor taste at all. It is the way to go, okay? Try to imagine if you were the manager and you had to promote someone into a role, okay? Now, what would be kind of slimy and a turnoff for you if somebody came to you and they kind of badgered you and pestered you about it, but they don't talk about their passion for doing the role. They don't want the job because they like the job. They want the job only because of the money, or because of the title, right? That would probably turn you off. That would not be, you probably wouldn't be super receptive to that. But if somebody came up to you and said, look, I understand this position is open. I find that really, really interesting because I've been in this position for a long time and I really feel that, I could manage people or whatever it is, that the new role involves. I'm really excited to do that. It's the next step for me. I would love to do that, So, if you could consider me, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great day. You have the right attitude. You show passion for the position. You show that you have initiative. You're not just a passive, demure kind of person who waits for their number to be called. Okay? They're a little bit, a bit of a go-getter, right? And also when you do this, you're showing off your people skills and your interpersonal skills. If you're really unpleasant to deal with, or you have no charisma, that will be a factor in whatever job you have. Some jobs more than others, obviously, but that will be a factor. And if you can do this effortlessly, and it's not awkward for you or for the boss, it's really good. It's a really good skill to have, and they will appreciate that. So yes, there's no harm in approaching them professionally and appropriately. You don't pester them. You don't get very emotional about it. You don't go on at length about it. You do it at the right time. You don't do it when they're in the middle of stuff. You don't do it when they're stressed out about stuff. It's like the busiest part of the day or the busiest part of the week, and you're there in their face talking about this. No. You go to them when they're not busy, maybe right after lunch, maybe on a Friday, something like that. very professionally, hey, you got 2 minutes? And just say, look, I understand this is open. And if it is, I'd very much like to be considered for it. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you. Have yourself a great weekend. Right? You want them to enjoy interacting with you. If they feel it's weird, they feel it was too kind of intense, that doesn't do you too much favors. But if you had a pleasant encounter, that goes a long way. That's a preview of what you're going to be like in that position if they select you. Okay? That's what you're giving them. Okay? Now, if this sounds intimidating, this is like, oh, I can't do any of that. The good news is this stuff is actually very, very simple to do. Okay? If you got some major level technical skills, this stuff is child's play compared to doing a lot of technical things. Okay? So that's the great news. Okay? You just got to learn a few principles and you got to practice a little bit and you can be a master at this. And this will help you. It'll help you so much in getting this promotion or any other position for the entire rest of your working life. So look into it. Okay. But no, it is not in poor taste. It's the thing to do, but you got to do it right. Tarek says, hi, after the salary expectation question, can we ask them about the salary range of the position before putting my range to them? Yes, certainly you can. Yes. Usually, what I advocate for is if you're, say, in a job interview and they ask you this question, okay, there's sort of like it's a 3-level answer that you give. You try to avoid answering this question, okay? You don't want to, the last thing you want to do is give a number because basically it's like you don't know what the range is in the vast majority of situations. And if you say a number, it's just blind luck, whether that number happens to be above the range or below the range of what they're looking to pay. Okay. So the first thing you say is like, well, I can't really answer right now. I'd have to know more details about the position. I know what's in the job posting, but I'd have to get more of a feel for what this job involves before I could really say how much I would need. And then the second thing, if they press you more, they say, well, you gotta tell us, Then you go to this and you say, well, can I ask what the range is? I mean, this position was posted publicly, so that means it was approved. So that means the salary range for this position was approved. So can I ask what it is? You turn the question around at them. And if they answer that, they say, oh, well, this job pays anywhere between 50 and 60. You say, that works for me. Somewhere in there would be perfect. And if they leave it at that, you've passed the question. So that's how these things work. So yes, you definitely can say that, okay? For the sake of completeness, I just want to say part 3 was if they don't give you the salary range, they give you the lie of saying, oh, well, we don't know what the range is. That's a very popular lie that recruiters say. Oh yeah, we're hiring for a job, but we don't know what it pays. It could pay minimum wage, or it could pay $750,000 a year plus stock options. We don't know. Yeah, no one believes that. But you have to tell us. We don't know what the range is, but we need to know what your expectations are, right? They can really put the screws to you. In which case, they're putting all this pressure on you to say a number. You never give a number. The third thing that you go to is to say, okay, anywhere between this and this, somewhere between those numbers would be fine, depending on the details. Right? And you pick a low number that's very low, but still reasonable. And you pick a very high number that's very high, but still within reason. And you say somewhere in there. Depending on the details. That's all as specific as I can be right now. Any more specific would be like just me pulling a number out of the air, and I'm sure that's not what you want. So the reason for doing that is that, as I said before, the entire idea of asking this question in the first place is to try and eliminate people that ask for too much money. Now, you pass the test by saying anywhere between here and here would be fine. So you're not actually saying you need a high number that's way over their range. So they can't eliminate you, okay? But later on, if you ask for a little more money, you're not contradicting anything you've said. You said, like, look, anything like in this range, somewhere in this range would be good. And you're not actually going back on anything you've said. It allows you later on to ask for a little bit more if you go that direction. So that's why I recommend that answer. It's a 3-step answer. It's a little bit complex, but you say this, and if they accept it, great. If they still press you, you say the second thing, which is what you're asking about. You turn around the question, well, what is the range? And if they tell you, you say, sure, that would work. And then if they still refuse to tell you that, but they press you further, then you go to the third part, which is giving them a wide range. SX. What does that stand for? I read sucks when I read that, but that's just me. Hi, Bill. The company I joined is promoting based on seniority, time spent at this very company, not on overall experience. Yes, that's common. That's kind of how things worked 30, 40 years ago. That was kind of the standard. Any advice on how to tackle this and get promoted? Thanks for everything. Well, look, it depends what they've got. If they've got a union, then usually that's what you see, like very strict seniority system. And there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do if you're within that union, and that's how they do things. So if it were me and I was confronted by that, and it's like all your peers are like you're 25 years old and all your peers are, 55. It's like by the time you get to the top of the seniority list, that's going to be in like 35 years. No. Personally, I wouldn't play that game. And I have not played that game. I've refused to play that game in my career. I would look elsewhere. I would look at other companies. Like if you're at this level, say a worker level, and you want to be a supervisor and you feel you can do it, but there's not really that many opportunities for promotion if they're going by seniority and all your peers are very old. I would start applying to other companies and do it that way. Now, depending on what the situation is, if there's a way you could sort of maybe go around the seniority system, I don't know if that's possible. I've never heard of that, but if it's an unofficial seniority system where it's not like this thing they have to follow, yeah, do what I did, like what I recommended 5 minutes ago, and just go to your boss, present yourself very appropriately, very professionally, show your passion, show how awesome it is dealing with you. Assuming it's your boss that is making the decision on this, go to the decision maker, whoever that is. Let them have a very pleasant encounter with you. Just say, hey, no pressure. I understand you're doing this. Just so you know, I would love to do that. I'd love to be in that role. I feel I have a lot of skills. I have a lot of experience, and I'm just passionate about doing that. And so I'd be very grateful if you could consider me. Let me know if you need anything else. That's all. Have a great day. Something like that. That's what I would do. But good question. Jay Binks. That's a good name. That's a good solid name. It was a sign of a very forthright, upstanding individual here. I have one of those online questionnaire interviews tomorrow. You have my deepest sympathy. I hope it goes well. Which is basically just recording yourself answering questions within a time frame. I hate doing this. Thanks for your vids, Bill. Oh, there's no question. Yeah, that's not, speaking as someone that does like videos and stuff, it's not a big deal with practice, but yeah, I know what you mean. It can be a bit nerve-wracking, especially if you don't really do that kind of thing on a regular basis. But look, assuming this job is important to you, this is not like something you don't really care that much about, but assuming it's important to you, it's worth practicing a lot before you do it. Practice what you're going to say, and then get the video itself to be good as well as you can do it. So like make sure they can see you properly, make sure they can hear you very well, and make it look as good as you possibly can. And I wish you the best of luck. It's like, we seem to be on this journey in the world of HR to be as lazy as physically possible to try and find candidates. That's the path that HR is on. It's like the race to the bottom. How can we hire people by putting even less effort into it? I mean, applicant tracking software wasn't enough. Now we want interviews where we don't even have to interview anyone. Not remote interviews. I mean, that was like, we were sort of doing that by necessity sometimes, but how could we do even less work? Let's have them record a video, and then if we don't like the first couple of answers, we could just stop watching it. There you go. You don't have to sit through the whole interview. It's just funny to me because I don't know if you guys have found this too, but it's like all their efforts are not going towards producing better results. All their efforts are instead going towards how can we produce the same results with even less work. That's how things are going. And then companies wonder why they don't have a particularly amazing, motivated workforce. There's no substitute for people skills. There really isn't. And you learn by doing it. Okay. And trust me, this did not come naturally for me. I'm a natural introvert, and I'm a technical person, and I'm a detail-oriented person. That puts me at a considerable disadvantage when it comes to social interaction. But from having to do it for many, many, many years, you learn that it's really not that hard. I mean, if you can do technical things, you certainly can do this. It just takes a bit of practice. And then when they ask you to do a video of yourself, it won't be like the end of the world. But yeah, just do as good of a job as you can. That's all you can do, right? A lot of times, well, listen, what I want to say is that everybody wonders, like, how do companies select people? Like, if you're young, you're just starting out, you're in your 20s, you apply for jobs and you go for interviews and you wonder, like, okay, did they like this? Did they like that answer? Did they not like that answer? I made a joke, was that appropriate, or was it awkward, or how do they, and then, oh no, I didn't get it. Why did I not get it? Like, what was it that I did that was such a turnoff? Am I not experienced enough? Am I not charming enough? Do I not have all the skills? It's like, the reality is the biggest factor in whether these things work out or not, believe it or not, is random chance. It's nothing that you have or you did. It's more random chance. A lot of times people are just looking for a certain thing. And if there's one thing about humans, you can see this on the internet, we don't want the things we should want, Like I've said this many times before, think of humans in general. Like, we spend more on movies than we do on education. Like, as a society, we don't want the things we probably should want. And that goes all the way down to individuals. When a manager is hiring, a subordinate level position, they want a worker, they want a supervisor. Usually the number one thing that they want is someone they like just on a personal level. It doesn't matter what skills they have really, beyond a certain basic amount. It just, I like that person. We have the same sense of humor. We like the same sports teams. We have the same hobbies. I have a background in accounting. They have a background in accounting. We understand each other. We get along. Like, it's so stupid. That's the reason why a lot of hiring decisions get made. beyond like, oh, I'm not an axe murderer, and everything on my resume isn't a lie. Once you get beyond that step, it's basically like how much they click with you. And over that, you have no control because you have no idea who you're going to be dealing with. You go and you meet someone that's the hiring manager is just like you, only 10 years older, and you're a shoo-in. You go and the hiring manager is someone the opposite of you, only 10 years older, and you didn't stand a chance. Everything you have, they don't value. Right? Whereas the other person, they're just like you. Everything you have, they think is amazing. Right? Now, you haven't changed. It's just that there's two different people that have a completely different set of values of what they place value on. Right? And it's pot luck whether you get this person or that person. And so the way to go through this process is you just have to do many interviews. You have to try and pursue as many opportunities as possible. Because the biggest factor is going to be random chance. I taught HR in universities. I mean, this is what we see. Like HRs, of all the areas of business, HR is the most imprecise. It's the most hocus pocus. It's closely followed by sales. And when I say HR, I'm talking mainly about recruitment and selection, okay? But even things like compensation, stuff like that, it really is like a black box. Like in operations, you make predictions and you have your performance, and your performance is within a few percentage points of your predictions, usually. Less than 10%. We're 7% off our predictions this quarter, right? For how many products we made or how many defects we encountered or what our budget came to, But HR, it's like predicting the weather. It's like we were wrong 75% of the time and nobody cares, We made bad choices on candidates. These people all ended up leaving after a very short time. Whoops. Oh, well, business as usual. That's what HR is like. It's driven by emotions. It's driven by people that really don't know what they're doing. And in all fairness, even if you did know what you're doing, spotting talent is extremely hard. And people are not willing to put in the time even to get to know you. So spotting talent under those conditions is astronomically impossible or difficult, So that's what this process is like. So number one, what's the takeaway? Don't take rejection too hard. I know that's easier said than done, but it really isn't a reflection on your value as a candidate or as a person with traits and experience and education. It really isn't a reflection on that. And that's evidenced by the way that most people, they get rejected a whole bunch of times and they get accepted eventually, right? Every single person was rejected. Even the most brilliant people have been rejected. You look at history. They rejected Einstein. They told the Beatles, oh, you're no good. And we're not going to give you a recording contract. You're no good. Right? Obviously these are wild, exceptions, instances, but they illustrate the point that we see constantly. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here. Christian. I'm going to have a drink of my drink, which today is Red Bull. It's the healthy choice. If ever you're wondering why I got this haircut, it's because of all the Red Bull. Christian, I nailed my interview with your videos. Thank you very much. I received positive feedback the same day and got a phone call the following day asking me to go through the next stage of employment. Great, congratulations, and thank you for saying so. I'm glad. I'm glad you got some value out of my stuff, and you should be very proud of what you've accomplished. Does that mean you're hired? Like it says they made me go through the next stage of employment. I'm just curious what you mean by that. David says, hello, I recently ran across your channel and your videos have helped me immensely and wanted to thank you. Well, you're absolutely welcome, David, and thank you very much for saying so. You're making my day with this kind of feedback. King. Now, we've heard from King earlier. To be honest, with my new job, I'm super frustrated at myself. I wish I could learn faster. But thank you for saying what you were just saying. You can only do your best. And you're so right. I'm doing my best. And I really needed to hear that right now. Thank you always. That's very, very kind of you to say so, King. And the other part of that is you may be able to perform better. It might be possible to do a better job, but the big question is it sustainable? Like, for example, when you're in college, you might cram for an exam or something, right? Like, you could be up for 2 days, you could be swigging coffee, you could be, just studying, like pounding this knowledge into yourself. And yes, you can achieve that level of performance. But when you get on the job, just because you're capable of that, should that mean that you shoot for that? Not necessarily, because you will probably burn out after a very short period of time. So if you can't sustain it, then it doesn't really do you any good in the long term. So this is bordering on, I don't know, life philosophy or something, but in my opinion, you should shoot for the highest level of sustainable performance. And the other thing is to recognize that there's ups and downs. We all go through peaks and valleys. Sometimes we're just uninspired, or we're in a rough patch in our life or whatever, and you just can't be motivated to do something. You don't have the energy to do something, but it's temporary, and then you come up, and then you can kick ass, another time. So you got to take all that into account, right? Do your best. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just do what you can do and try and sustain it. And if you do go through a rough patch, just acknowledge, hey, everybody goes through a rough patch now and again. It's okay. Just make it through and then come out on top the other side. David says, a break to reset and figure out what I wanted in a job. Now, David, thank you. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, the first message didn't send. Okay. Jay says, thanks for the feedback, even though it wasn't a question. Haha. Mr. Sveen, haha. Person-to-person interview comes next. Seems like LinkedIn is like a fake version of Facebook. Any favorite beer or spirits? Cheers. I like that's a nice cross-section of ideas. Well, LinkedIn is like the Facebook of business, right? It's not a cheap version of Facebook. I think Facebook is the cheap, malfunctioning, underperforming, broken version of LinkedIn, but without the seriousness, or at least attempted seriousness. King says, wow, I never thought about that. Thank you for your wisdom. That's for sure very good advice. Well, thank you. You're doing fine. And thank you very much for the super chat. I do appreciate it. David says, what do I answer when asked about a gap on my resume? I just needed a break after leaving a job that wasn't a good fit. Listen, David, here's the deal. You know what you just described? I did that too. Okay, it's understandable. I think that most people who have like a bad employment experience, they work at a place that sucks. It's maybe an abusive atmosphere with a raging bully for a boss, toxic culture, miserable people, confused work instructions, oppressive atmosphere. And it goes on and on and on and on until it's like an exercise to see if you can crack, right? Trust me, you are not the only one that's been in something like that. I've been in there. Most people have been in there. And if you want a break before immediately starting another job, I think is perfectly understandable. Who doesn't? I mean, first of all, you've just sort of gotten out of a horrible situation. So you're marked. You've got, PTSD or whatever, some form of that. Then you've got to do a job search, which, as everybody knows, is wonderful, makes you feel really good about yourself. You feel totally in control. Rejection feels great. And you're already drained, from the effects of your last job. Who wants to start that when you're already at your lowest point, right? So I certainly wouldn't judge you for wanting to take a break. Now, some people do. Some people, I mean, I don't want to sound condescending, but you have the luxury of being able to do that. Other people, unfortunately, they just can't. You know, if they take a break, they won't be able to make rent or, you know, whatever. But some people can. And we would all want to do that, you know? Now, if you talk to a hiring manager and this came up and you were to reveal that, chances are it would go easier with a hiring manager than a recruiter. But the way recruiters think is they're suspicious of a work gap, because the way they think is if this person wasn't working, maybe there's a reason for that I'm not seeing that would be very bad. Okay, maybe they weren't working because they had an alcohol addiction. Maybe they weren't working because they were, you know, they had personal problems, right? Maybe they weren't working because they were fired from their last job and didn't have anything lined up, right? Which would suggest bad things, or could suggest bad things. That's how recruiters think. So a recruiter will be a bit suspicious of that. So depending on the details, okay, first of all, if you've got a resume gap, but it's not between your last job and the present, usually recruiters don't care about that. Okay, if you had a resume gap, but then you were hired and you worked at a place for a while, that tends to suggest that there's no issues. But if you had a resume gap between your last job and right now, that's what's going to raise some questions for them. So if the gap is long enough that you can't hide it, okay? Like if it's a month or two, I mean, you could probably just, you know, you don't put the months in, you just say, you know, to this year. And then even if they ask, you say, well, it took me a little bit of time to find a job, you know, just like a few weeks to get my next job, you know. That's how long my job search process took me to get my resume together and start contacting people. But if you have a longer gap where you can't explain it away as, you know, just a month or two, transitional unemployment, you know, it's much bigger. Say you took a year off or something like that. Okay. Then you can't hide it, and you shouldn't avoid talking about it. You're going to have to justify it. Okay. So a quick and easy thing at the end of the day, I mean, there's many things you could do, but one thing that anybody could do is go take like a free course online and just find some course, take it. And then if they ask you what's this year gap on your resume? You know, what were you doing? You say, well, I took time off to get some training or to go back to school, you know, whatever. And you say, yeah, I took courses in this. Yeah. And I brushed up on some of my skills in these areas because, you know, I felt that I have a lot of experience, but, you know, I need maybe just to keep pace with the changes in this industry. So I wanted to get some training under my belt, and that's what I did. Right? So you see, you're explaining it away in a very positive way. Okay? So that when the recruiter hears this, they go, okay, no red flags there. You know, like that makes sense. And, you know, if you have to go further, it's a variation of the question, why did you leave your last job? Right? Because they're asking you about the past to see if there's any red flags. And that's a complex question. Depending on your situation, you could say many different things, but the easy answer is to say, I was ready to do more. Right? I was just ready to do more. You know, I would like to do this and that and this and that. And so I decided to take some time and get trained. And now that I'm trained, I'm ready to rejoin the workforce. So, you know, things like that, they're pretty disarming. You could say stuff like that. There are other things you could say too. That's not the only thing, but the point is you want to try and give a reason for it that's very benign. Okay? That doesn't raise any red flags about your work ethic or your employability or your commitment or anything like that. Okay? So that's always a good like sort of thing that, you know, if all else fails, you could say that, and hopefully that should fix the problem. But as I say, like, go and register for a couple of free internet courses in something that's relevant, you know, and, you know, do a little bit. And then when you say this, there's no deception. There's no lie, you know, But if you say, like, look, I took some time off because I just was burned out, I needed to recover from that last job, that's not good because you're saying negative things now indirectly about your last employer. You're also signaling that you can't handle some employment situations that you've been in. So all of that is painting a riskier picture of who you would be if they hired you. Okay, and recruiters have this, I don't want to call it a law, but it's this principle where past behavior predicts future behavior. Now, as we all know, that's a very flimsy concept. Just because you've done something in the past doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to do it again. It might have been a mistake. You learned from your mistake. You now know not to do that, so you're not going to do it again. But the way recruiters think, and they apply this, by the way, when you're answering job interview questions, if you've said you've done something in the past, they're going to assume that if we hire you, that's what you'll do. Okay, that's a problem, right? So that's why it's also very important when you answer these questions, not to say anything that if you did it again, it would be a problem. They would regard it as a problem. So that's another factor here. Okay, David says it's 3 months so far. Look, personally, I don't think 3 months is a problem. Okay. Like if it was a year, then you would definitely do more of what I just said. But like 3 months, I had to get my resume together. I haven't looked for a job in X many years or whatever it's been. So, the way you go about applying for jobs and in a post-COVID world, it's a little bit different. I had to sort of get on a bit of a learning curve as to how to do that. And, that counts for most of the 3 months. If you said something like that to me, that makes perfect sense to me. So justifying it as that is how long it took me to get my resume together and do additional research in the field of work, as I really don't know what courses I would take. Well, come on. that just like, look, are you a mechanic? Go and take an online course on, fixing a certain type of equipment. I don't know, Go and take a math course. Go and take a course. Do you use imperial tools? Go take a course on metric tools. I don't know. That's really not a real problem there. Just pick something. If you do go down that road, just pick something. Don't just say, well, I don't know what courses I would take. Well, go look. There's a course on like everything these days. Everything. I've got 2 of them myself out at the bottom of the screen. Shameless plug. Alex says, someone allow me to connect with his friend who might be able to get me a job. I suppose to send my CV and portfolio about a 1.5 week ago, but wasn't able to finish due to school and design contest. Okay. Yeah, where to start? Look, an extremely valuable tool. This is just my advice, something that's helped me that I've learned over the years. Learning how to put yourself out there and connect with people is extremely useful to your career. Okay. Earlier in this video, I made mention of a video I have on my channel called How Successful People Get Jobs. If you go in right now, open up a second tab or something, go to YouTube, in the search box, type the company's expert, and then How Successful People Get Jobs. And it'll bring you to a video. It's like a 5-minute video. Watch that video. I show you how you instantly find all the companies in your industry, in your location, that are looking for people like you. Okay? And then when you go over to LinkedIn, you could, now that you know all the companies, you can look into those companies, see the people. And it's possible to connect with them. It's possible to send messages to them. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. You could do informational interviews. You could go down there in person. You could do all kinds of things. You could even go and check with their HR department. You could go to their website and send in applications. There's so many options. But the thing I'd recommend is really mastering with those 2 tools Google Maps and LinkedIn, how to find all the people in your industry and how to send them a message. And the message you'd send is, like I said earlier, is, hello, this is what I do. I'm great at this. I solve this kind of problem. And I'd love to work for your company. If ever you're looking, just keep my name in mind. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great day. That's all you say. Very low pressure. Just, hello, I'm here. If ever I can be of service to you, please let me know. Thank you. Best wishes. And, the ability to do that, it's so simple to do, but it opens up so many doors, especially if you're like a student. If you're a student, you say, hey, I'm a student, you have to know who to say it to. You don't go to the worker. You go to very high level people, the decision makers. A student contacts them and says, hello, I'm a student. I'm taking this in school, but someday soon, next year, I'm looking to work in this industry, in your industry. I'd very much like to get your expert opinion on this industry and where it's going. If you could spare me half an hour, we could go grab a coffee or something. Let me know if that works. You suggest a date, time, and place of your convenience. Very simple to do. This is what I've done. I built a business doing this kind of stuff. With CEOs. Like I contact the CEOs. I've taught classes in university where I made the students do this and contact the CEOs. And like I've said before, they would get bonus points if they get a selfie with the CEO. A lot of them did. It's very easy to do. And it's great because now if you went that route and went and tried to get an informational interview, first of all, you'd be able to get them. And secondly, you now know these people face to face. And if you can give a good informational interview, once again, very simple to do, couple of very important principles. You just ask them questions about them, and, that opens up a tremendous amount of opportunity for yourself. Because of all the people that apply for a job, you're the only one they've met and that they liked already. So number one, like you jump right to the front of the line, right? And you're the only one that took an initiative to reach out to them. And if they had a very positive interaction with you, like, that wasn't unpleasant, it wasn't awkward, makes a lot of sense. That's a preview of what it's like to work with you. None of the other candidates have given them that yet, if they've just sent in a resume. You also don't have to worry about these idiotic job interview questions. These cookie cutter, cliched interview questions that are just, well, the word crap comes to mind. It really is. I mean, it's just it amazes me how a lot of the recruiters as a whole can't think up better questions than these. They go back to questions that everybody's been asking for 60 years and more, It's really stupid, and I'm sure you'll agree. So, yes, I have that in my course. I also have a playlist on my YouTube channel that, you don't have to pay anything, whatever. You can just watch the playlist. It gives you a preview. It's called How to Tap the Hidden Job Market. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you click on my name, and then instead of videos, you click playlists, and it shows all the playlists. There's a playlist called, How to Tap the Hidden Job Market, and it walks you through some of this stuff. They're pretty old videos. They're like 2 or 3 years old, but they're there. So developing those skills is very important. And if you're an introvert, if you're a detail-oriented person, you might start off with a little natural disadvantage, but trust me, it's really not that hard to learn. It's very simple, and anyone can do it. But the thing is, a lot of people don't. And that's good, because that leaves the way clear for you. Of all the candidates that apply for a job, maybe one actually reached out to the hiring manager. And if it went okay, guess which one they're going to consider first. That's how these things work. It's funny. A lot of young people give me an argument on this. They tell me, no, that can't possibly be right. hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but internally I'm laughing because like don't tell me it's not true. I mean, I've done this for years and accomplished a lot and taught students how to do it and have them surprise themselves, showing that they can talk to executives, they can talk to CEOs, and it goes really well. And then if they come out of school and apply for a job there, they can do things like, they met the CEO once a year ago, right? Because of this informational interview. And at the end of the meeting, they said like you give them, you have a card or something, you give them your card, they give you your card, you just take theirs, they give you their card. You say like, look, would it be okay if I had any follow-up questions, would I be able to call you? Is that okay? And 99% of the time they'll say, sure. So you wait like 6 months or whatever it is, and then you want to apply for a job there. The first thing you do is you call the CEO, or you even send them an email, whatever, and say, hey, like we spoke like last year, or you did an interview with me. I see that you guys are hiring for this. Would it make sense for me to apply? And then they'll respond, sure, yeah, sure, go for it. So then when you contact HR, you say like, oh, the CEO recommended I apply for this job. That carries a lot of weight. And you can copy the CEO on that email too. Things like this. I mean, you know what I mean? It makes people like consider you a bit more seriously. David says, degree in chemistry. Oh, I take my hat off to you. I took university, like 1 year of like the first year chemistry courses and the labs. Degree in chemistry, and the job I left was my first after college, so I don't know how doing more courses would look. Okay, sure. I mean, you're really throwing up some barriers here. Like, look, you got a degree in chemistry, take a course in how to supervise people, okay? Like, take something useful, okay? I mean, that's all I'm saying. The original question, I believe here, right, was how can I justify a work gap? That's what you were asking me. So take a course and say like, look, okay, I got a degree in chemistry. Great. You don't have to take a course in chemistry. Take a course in communication, business communication, how to write a report. Take like a quality thing, a little bit of lean, a little bit of Six Sigma, whatever. These things apply to all professional situations, right? I mean, come on, let's fire up that creative brain and think of what could be useful that you don't have that would help you in your job, whatever job you're going for. I don't know, but out there's a course in it. Okay. You know what I mean? So stop like just throwing up barriers and like everything and just think, right? I don't know how it would look. Well, you could just not say anything and just say, well, I took 3 months off. And, if you'd rather say that, but you asked me the question originally. So that's one of the most basic and easy things to do to justify a work gap. Costs zero money. You could take the course for a class or whatever for a week, and then you can justify 3 months or a year or whatever you're doing by saying, I was taking training. Perfectly benign. Doesn't raise any red flags. There you go. Okay. Hi, sir. I'm close to graduation in HR, and I'm a person who tends to stress easily. I do perform good, basically above average, but my anxiety is so high and introverted. My doctor did confirm, so connecting is hard. Yeah, I got news for you. It's hard for everybody. It's just, there are different degrees of hard. And trust me, I've been there. I started off like that. Okay. I am an only child. My parents are introverts. And I took an engineering degree. I mean, that's about as introverted as you can get. my social skills were behind the curve when I was, say, 21 years old. And I went up through operations and tacked on some interpersonal skills. I became a supervisor early on, so I had to deal with people. And that's a real trial by fire. Okay? And all I can say is that, listen, this stuff really isn't rocket science. You claim you're above average, okay? Well, you can handle this, okay? This is like not rocket science. There's some pretty, how can I put this? Pretty dumb people out there that can do this. Some extrovert. I'm not beating up on extroverts. I'm just saying there's some people out there that they have really no substance, but they can do this, okay? So it really isn't that much of a challenge once you realize how little there is to it, okay? And then it's a matter of practice, okay? Every time you do a job interview, you're practicing those types of awkward, high-pressure social situations, all right? If you want to get good at interviews, you do a lot of interviews, and then you do mock interviews with a friend or family member at home. You do a ton of them. Day after day after day after day after day, you do lots and lots of mock interviews. And I guarantee you, in a very short amount of time, your interviewing skills will be greatly improved, right? Now, when it comes to networking, and by that, I don't mean schmoozing with people. I don't mean like hanging out at an event and making small talk with people. That's not, well, I suppose technically that's a form of networking, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about connecting very precisely with very precise people about a if you see what I'm saying, about a specific thing. Okay? And you have to make conversation. And the great thing is that like for example, okay? Let me give you just an illustration. You have to talk to an executive, okay? Someone who's a vice president or someone who's a C-level executive in, medium-sized company in your hometown, okay? So indirectly, they supervise, I don't know, maybe 100 people, something like that. And you have an interview with them. You show up at their office or you show up at a Starbucks and they're meeting you, and you have to have a conversation with them. All you have to do, what works like 99% of the time, is ask them about them. You just say, hey, it's great to meet you. Thanks for coming. Did you have trouble finding this place? If it's like a Starbucks or something. Already you're asking questions about them. And then you say, so I understand that you do this. What is it that your role mainly has to deal with all day or something like that? Or, where do you see this industry going? Now, this is something that they know about and it's at the tip of their mind. They deal with this every day. So number one, they know a lot about how to answer that. Number two, they enjoy talking about that. Like if you meet someone, you talk about what's your favorite movie, and they say, oh, I like, I don't know, The Matrix, whatever. And you say, oh, why? I haven't seen The Matrix. Like, what's great about The Matrix? Now, if it's their favorite movie, they're probably going to enjoy talking about it, right? So all you have to do is ask a couple of questions and just sit back and let them talk. And they're enjoying telling you what they think about this particular movie because it's their favorite movie. And then they say something and you say oh, why is that? Or really? They did it that way? Why didn't they do it this other way? And then you just let them go. Right? So if you're an introvert, you can easily do this. Okay? You pick a topic that they know about and that they enjoy talking about, and you just ask them questions. And they do 80% of the talking, at least. And they'll enjoy it, and they'll enjoy talking to you because you are a vehicle for them to talk about what they enjoy talking about. Now, if you're asking them about an industry or their job or, something like this that's useful to you, all the better. You're getting something out of it too. And at the end, they will really like you. And then if you contact them again and say, hey, I actually am looking for a job in this thing, and I understand you guys might be looking to hire, that's the beginning of a great connection right there. They already know you. They already like you. They're already impressed by, how easy you are to deal with and your professionalism and your initiative. That's a great start. So it's things like that. I mean, it's really not rocket science. What I wish I'd done more in my 20s is learn more of that. I wish I'd learned it earlier. So, talking to young people, it's like, that's what I try to encourage people to do. Unfortunately, and I did this myself, you have this more anti-establishment attitude usually in your 20s. It's all rigged, it's all gamed. These people are jerks and I hate them all, and there's no point in trying to talk to them because they just, no good will come of it. I need to wait. Oh, the other thing is I need to wait my turn. Sorry, you guys have to let me go on another rant, okay? Just for 5 minutes, okay? Just for a little bit of time. School. Everybody loves school, right? The way school works is you are rewarded for conforming. You have to wait your turn. You got to not question anything. Just conform. Just do what we say. Follow the rules, right? That's how you get through school. The more you conform, the more you keep your head down, the more less noise you make, you get rewarded. The more you question, the more you refuse to follow rules, you get punished. So what does this teach us? This teaches us to be these demure people that just wait their turn. They expect to be told when they're going to get something rather than having them go and have the initiative to go and get it themselves. So this is the problem. A lot of people come out of school in their 20s and they think that the real world works like that. It doesn't. And if you don't believe me on that, like look at who gets promotions. Is it the person that, just kind of doesn't really draw attention to themselves and doesn't make a fuss and waits for their number to be called? Or is it the person that gets in the boss's face, makes sure that they're seen, makes sure that their wins are broadcasted to everybody? Unfortunately, it's the latter, usually. Now, some of that is kind of slimy and underhanded, but some of it is just the way things work. Ask any salesperson, how many sales are you going to make if you don't tell everyone what you're doing? And in job search, you're selling yourself. You're basically showing up to a job interview saying, I've got what you need. Look no further because this is the real deal. Let me tell you why, right? You're looking for this, I got it. You're looking for that, right here. Why should you hire me? Oh, let me tell you. Because I can take those skills and those experiences and combine them with this other skills and talents and abilities that I have and things I've learned on the job, and I bring them all together. And you can see by my track record that I have a track record of success. That's what I can bring to you. That's a sales pitch. It's about selling. And all the introverts and technical people out there you're probably ready to puke hearing this. But it's actually super simple. It's something you can do. It's very simple to do. There's just a couple of basic principles. That's all you do, right? So there you go. Okay. Rant over. I have to do it sometime. It's going to take a moment. And check out the courses at the bottom of the page. If you're interested in either of those, no pressure. But the first one, called Get Hired, is basically everything I would recommend for someone to do to get a job, step by step. And it's not just using one method to get a job, it's multiple methods. So you're looking in the posted job market, sending in applications, sending in resumes, doing interviews, and getting a job that way. Alternatively, you're going the networking method, okay? This is a method certainly necessary for people if you are changing careers, if you had a long work gap, if there's anything in your work history that's like, it's kind of labeling you as a higher risk candidate, right? Networking is the blanket solution for all those problems. Because You don't sell yourself based on your work history or your resume. You sell yourself based on your interaction with somebody. And this is interaction like remotely. You don't even have to pick up a phone. Okay. So it talks about all that. There's other methods too, but it's basically everything that I would recommend step by step from beginning to end, all in one place. So if you're interested in that, check that out. The Get Hired course, there's a link in the description. The other one, the $100 MBA, I have an MBA myself. If anyone is interested in learning business, this is an option that I wish I had in my 20s and 30s, where what you do, it's a self-study thing. So basically, you get the same textbooks that they use in a university brick and mortar MBA program. And the textbooks I'm using and recommending are textbooks that are used in Harvard. They're used all over the world. Okay. They're sort of best of breed kind of textbooks. Now, instead of paying 5 figures or possibly 6 figures for a professor to teach it to you and read it to you, what you do is you get the book and you read it yourself. And there's no tests, no evaluations, no exams, nothing like that. You can go as deep as you want, or you could just skim. If you just want a basic idea of the topic, there you go. So that's the $100 MBA. So it's unaccredited because there's no evaluations. So you can't really take a piece of paper and say, I got an MBA, hire me because of that. That's not what this is about. This is about if you want to learn the material and have the skills and apply them to your career, whether it's a corporate career in a job, they can help you get promoted because you just do such a damn good job, or you want to go alternate ways. You want to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, something like that. You want to learn business, but you don't want to spend $50,000 to do it. Here's a very cheap, very convenient alternative that you can work in your life. So those are 2 courses I have. If either of those are interesting to you, check them out. Link in the description box. Okay, back to you. I think I'm right here. Okay, Satyam says, hi, a year ago, I saw your video tips for job interview and landed up with my first job back here in India. Thanks a lot. You're absolutely welcome, Satyam. I'm glad that worked out for you. Congratulations. David says, thank you so much for all this. It is honestly amazing advice. I've never thought about cold emailing companies. Well, okay, I didn't say cold emailing companies. That implies something a little bit different than what I suggested. Okay, so just technically what I talked about was connecting with individuals, executives over LinkedIn. It's a little bit different. Do not talk to people at the bottom because they can't help you. Do not talk to people in the middle because they're too busy to help you. Neither is it their job to take queries from the public. It's the people at the top, the executives. Okay, don't be intimidated by that also. I've been a CEO. It's really not that big of a deal. Most people that have jobs, like 80% of them plus, 85% where I am, work in small companies. So when we talk about executive, you're talking about people that supervise maybe 20 people, right? Or the owner that supervises maybe 50 people indirectly. Most people that have jobs, that's the size of company they work in. The great thing is that those companies tend to not be super formal either. Certainly not as much as multinational corporations. In a big company, you'll have all kinds of formal policies. There's a rule for everything. In a small company, it's a little bit more flexible. There isn't a rule for everything. You talk to the boss, they like you, they're looking for a person, hey, you're hired. Hitesh, am I saying that right? Have an interview in 1 hour. Best of luck, Hitesh. What should I tell for why that company? Current points I plan telling is opportunity of working in a different workspace than the place I did my interview. Well, listen, find out what the company does. You know what they do? Find out, okay, do they have a branch office here or do they have a branch office somewhere? Where's their head office? If their head office is in your town, you can say, look, why did I apply here? because I know you guys are in this business. You make these products, which I know all about, and you have your head office here. You know, that's exciting. That implies opportunities for moving up possibly in the future. And I'd like to be at the center of the company rather than right on the fringes, you know? And you guys are right here. This is your central location. And I think that's really cool. There you go. So whatever you know about them, like look up the company. And, you know, there's some basic points about the company. You tell them those are great. Don't just say, well, it's a different place from where I worked. I mean, by that definition, any other place would have been fine for you. Right? But you don't want them to think that. You want them to think that you want to work here, right? This is your ambition to work here because this place is special. When they hear that, they start to perk up and now they're interested in you. How come my message didn't pop up? I don't know. Try again. I can see this. So say it again. Alex says, thanks for the recommendations. I will apply them ASAP. One last question. Once I sent my CV and portfolio, should I say the reasons I wasn't able to send the email on time or I just apologize? No. Look, let's say you meet someone on the street, okay? You don't know them. They're a stranger to you. And the first thing out of their mouth is like, you know, here's my thing. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't do this. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you. Oh, I apologize. Right? That suggests that they've screwed up, doesn't it? That also suggests that they don't have a lot of confidence. That's how it comes across. Okay? Now, I know that we're not dealing in the world of like, this is what's going on. We're dealing in the world of first impressions, perceptions. Okay? So if you then say, here's my application, thank you so much for considering me. I'd love to work at your company. Please let me know if there's anything else you need. Have yourself a great day. That makes a little bit more of a better first impression. Don't focus on, oh, I'm sorry, I screwed up and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. You know. Okay, remember, keep it positive. It also makes people feel a little bit more awkward on a subconscious level. Just keep everything positive. Everything's great. Trust me, I know. When you're in a job search, the last thing you feel is that everything is great and everything is sunny. Okay, I get that. Believe me. But you don't want to approach somebody and like, oh, I'm in misery. I know I screwed up. I know this is probably not what you want to hear. But here, just please take my application. You know, that's not a great way to, you don't give a good first impression doing that. Okay. Should I submit this for an Academy Award? I could. Actually, I'm just kidding. I couldn't. I'll be the company's who? Anyway, I need to be crying, right, to win the Oscar as I do this. You get down on your knees. No! Acting. Okay, where are we here? Okay. Kakarit. Am I saying that right? I'm sure I'm not. I'm sorry. Just doing what we're told and not thinking for ourselves. Is that something a business leader would do? No. Why? Why do you say that? I don't know what context that's in. Are you a business leader? I don't know what the context is, but if you're a worker, yeah, that's what people want. They don't want you to think for yourself. Now, yeah, some people are going to give me an argument on that, but that's the bottom line. I mean, I've had to supervise up to 50 people directly. And the last thing I want is when I give instructions to everybody, okay, I need you to do this, you need to do this, you got to be done that by this time because then you need to work with that other person. The last thing I want is for people to turn around and say, well, you know, how about this? How about I do this now and then he goes and does it? That's the last thing I need when I'm dealing with 50 people, okay? So it depends what context you're talking about. I'm not sure what the context is. Okay, it seems like you're reacting to something I said a while ago. Daniel says, what are the best courses and stuff to get a remote job? Well, what remote job? I mean, it depends. Like, look, some of the universal things are soft skills, like our communication skills, interpersonal skills, things like that. That's the stuff that, unfortunately, it carries more weight than it should because, like, think of a job interview. That stuff is immediate. They can see that immediately. Like, if you don't know how to, like, okay, let's pretend this is before COVID and, you'd shake hands and say hello and, things like this. And you don't know how to do that. It's kind of very awkward and you don't look them in the eye. You're looking down, you got your hands in your pockets and, they ask you a question. You're like, I don't know, this kind of stuff. I mean, that gives a bad first impression. That might be okay if you're getting your first job when you're age 16 or something, but for most professional jobs, that would not be a good first impression. So even stupid stuff like that is going to have an undue weight. So if you're wondering what you could improve, and I don't know what industry it is, you could just learn that stuff, like how to communicate, how to talk to people, or protocol, how to be super polite, this sort of thing. Okay, that stuff goes really far. Some people get jobs just based on the fact that they score high in that area, and unfortunately, maybe later on after they're hired, people find that there's not really much talent there, but they make a very good first impression. Hello, thank you for your time and energy. Where is better to search for jobs in IT? Well, the method I was talking about earlier with networking, that also works for IT, right? Like the thing is, you say search for jobs, like the reality is that over 80% of all jobs are not posted. So all the jobs that you see posted on the internet or somewhere else, that's 20% of all the jobs that are out there. The problem is that because of those are the most visible, you have I don't know what the numbers are, but you have the vast majority of 80% of all candidates competing for those jobs that are posted, those 20% of the jobs, right? And not a lot of people are competing for the jobs that are not posted, that exist. Okay? It takes time and effort and money to post a job. Back when I was a general manager and I was working with other general managers of different, units, business units and things, it's like, the jury was out on whether it made sense to hire an HR company to find candidates for you, as opposed to doing it yourself, because it's sort of even money. It takes you a little bit more time if you're doing it yourself. Okay, you have to interview all the candidates yourself and micromanage that, as opposed to paying someone to do it for you. But at the end of the day, the results weren't better. And for the amount of money that they charge, for the amount of work that you save, it really wasn't that much. Because you still have to supply the HR company or division with, essentially the job listing, the entire job listing, all the requirements, all that sort of stuff, what you're looking for. What they basically do is they do the first round of interviews and weed out people that clearly it's just not going to work, right? But at the end of the day, it's really not that much of a time saver. Now, what's the alternative? Okay, the alternative, when a manager realizes, okay, I got to hire someone. There's too much work. I've got 6 technicians. That's not enough. We need to hire at least 2 more. This is unsustainable. Okay. When that first occurs to them, okay, it's in the budget. I can afford it. We got a lot of business coming in. I got to hire 2 more people. As soon as that happens, here's what they do. There's sort of a 4-stage process. First thing they do is they think, okay, do I know anyone? Because if I know someone that's a technician that's looking for work right now, I'm just going to give them a call, and say like, look, are you interested in this? Come down, let's talk. Because if they say yes, and I know them, and I know that they're a good worker, I know they've, there's a personal connection there. I know they're not a criminal. I know they're not a psychopath. I know they're not, a complete fraud. I know they're not like a raging addict, or someone that's going to be a problem. They have like major personal issues. I know all that already. So if they are looking for a job and they want this job, that's where it ends. I hire them. There we go. It's simple. It's quick. Bang. You get up and running very quickly. If I don't know anyone, okay, I think like, okay, is there an internal candidate that, they're already familiar with the company, with the operation? I already trust them. I already work with them. I know they'll do a good job. Is there someone like that wants this job that I can move into the job? Now, there's a disadvantage in that, if I move someone around, I'm creating a vacancy somewhere else. But that's the second thing you think of. The third thing, if the answer is no, I don't know any internal candidate that would make sense. The third thing you do is you go and say, okay, let me check with my HR department. Do we have any resumes on file for candidates that we talked to recently that we thought were really good? Maybe in the last 6 months that, they might still be available and we already evaluated them and thought they were good, that we could offer the job to and see if they'll come in and interview for it. Okay, that's the third place you look. All of these cost very little money and they're very quick. And then if the answer is no to that, the first three options were no, then you go, okay, fine. I'll post the job publicly. I don't know anyone that might want to do this. We don't have any internal candidates. HR department doesn't know of anybody that, that we think is good that might want this job. Okay, so when you post it publicly, then you have to shell out a lot of money. You got to publicize this. You got to hire, social media marketers. You got to hire a recruiter, an HR company to publicize it, post it in all the standard places, right? Write up an official, job posting. In a large corporation, that'll be done anyway. But in a smaller company, you don't need a formal position necessarily. All you really need is a formal employment contract. That's the one thing you do need, right? So it's expensive. It's time consuming. You then have to set up multiple rounds of interviews with people. You got to set up background checks, reference checks, blah, blah, blah. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's a pain. Okay. So only the jobs that, 1, 2, and 3 didn't produce any results. That's when they get posted publicly. That's how this stuff works. Now, yes, there are exceptions. If you work in government, they might have rules. A lot of times they have rules where, you have to post everything publicly regardless. There are other situations like if it's unionized, there's some exceptions, but generally that's how it works. Mark M, is this in the United States? I always thought it was, but now I'm unsure. I'm in Canada. So it kind of is. It's very similar to the US, but not exactly. But I mean, all the stuff that I've said so far, nothing I've said so far is specific to Canada. This applies universally. Different countries have different rules that affect some things, but like some minor things, but these concepts are universal. Like just kinda in demand stuff, things I should be adding to build up my LinkedIn profile and stuff, or whatever, or that's totally like, whatever or something. If you're asking like, what do you need on your LinkedIn profile? Yeah, you got to have certain things on there. You can't, for example, your profile picture can't be you partying with friends and you're all drunk, things like this. There are some requisites. That's one of the things that I go into in my course, by the way. Like, these are some of the prerequisites for doing what I was describing earlier, connecting with people on LinkedIn, right? Kakarot, you are awesome, okay? You are totally on the right track. And yeah, but it's funny because a lot of people say that stuff. They talk about, business leaders and what leaders. I have heard so much crap on LinkedIn and other, places about what leadership is. And it's like the end result is that I think leadership, according to people out on the internet, is whatever you want it to be. It's like, you're like a Mother Teresa type person, and, you're friendly to everyone, and you never say no to everyone, and you're nothing but encouraging, and you just give everyone everything they ever want all the time. I've heard some absolute crap out there about it. So, if you see all that stuff, I could see how a lot of people, they get a distorted idea of what some of these business ideas are in the context of a job search, which you have to do, Don't you want people to eventually think for themselves, though, so they can grow and develop? Well, I don't understand, do people not think for themselves? Listen, yes, this is why education is important and real world experience is important. You will learn that a lot of times people are lying to you, especially if you work in a company, you work for an employer. Hey, I'm a former CEO. I'm no longer a CEO. I'm never going to be a CEO again. I have the freedom to say this. I mean, it's an exercise in influencing people. What's influencing? Influencing is getting them to behave the way you would want them to behave. And if you want people to not complain, be thankful that they have their job, work hard at their job, not consider leaving, and do everything that you say and never complain, that's good for business, right? So what you get, and I'm not universally, but a lot of times, is you get people just totally pulling the wool over your eyes. Now, if people are like, what I said earlier about school and how it teaches you to conform and never question and always follow the rules. People love to make up rules and tell you you have to follow them. In reality, you don't. It's not a rule. It's something that somebody wants you to do. Right? Obviously, there's the law of the land. But beyond that, there's not many rules you have to follow. It's just things that they would want you to do. And the problem is that they have different incentives from you. You are looking out for yourself. They're looking out for themselves. So already, right, you have different goals. So if you're acting in their best interest, that's not always good for you, right? Now, when we're young, we tend to be, I don't know what the word is, but we tend to believe people when they tell us stuff. No, you have to do it this way. And you're like, okay, right? It's only when you get into your 30s, a lot of times, people say, no, you have to do it this way. And you go, really? Why? Because it seems like you don't need to do that. And they say, no, just don't question it, just do it. And you're like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to do it. And let's see what happens. And then, wow, look at that. Nothing happened. And I came out on top. Maybe other things they're telling me are false too, Right? After you've been exploited a little in your 20s, a lot of people tend to wake up to that kind of stuff. I mean, starting with, we're talking about job search. Talk about recruiters and they tell you, you have to do this. One of the first big lies is that you have to deal with a recruiter to get a job. That's what recruiters will tell you. It's very hard for a recruiter to say, you don't need a recruiter to get this job. Okay? Now, once again, I understand that I'm just a voice on the internet telling you this. Go and do your own research. Go observe what goes on, okay? If you work in a place, how many of those employees that you're working with got a job because they know the boss? Or, they reached out to the company and got to know the boss, and then they got hired, right? Did they go through a recruiter? Maybe the boss handed the recruiter their resume and said, look into this person. Does that mean you have to go through the recruiter? No. The recruiter reports to the boss. So I'm just saying, depending on what stage in your life you are, all this might be coming, okay? If you're already sort of, you're hitting middle age, probably exactly what I'm talking about. So the sooner we wake up to this stuff, the better. Okay. And there's a lot of people, when it comes to like getting a job, they're going to sit you down and tell you this is the way it works. And it's like it's entirely their way and not your way. And it turns out to all be crap, basically. The boss can hire who they want. And they often do. And, HR, don't get me wrong, HR is still very important. You have to jump through certain hoops and do things right. But at the end of the day, this silly criteria that they put up is like how to assess a person. It doesn't work. And you don't need to take my word for that. Go ask somebody who's got a PhD in business, who they've seen the data. We all know the data on this. It doesn't work. And quite frankly, for a lot of worker jobs, they don't care. They just need a warm body in the role. And if you don't like it, you eventually quit, they'll just hire somebody else. And they don't really care that much, But this is good because it shows you that you don't have to accept some of the limitations they put on you. And they say, this is how you get the job. This is what you have to do to get the job. Look around. Do people in those roles all have those requirements? Usually not. Okay, anyway, back to you guys. One last thing just for Kakarot. If you should think for yourself. You always should think for yourself. What I'm saying is that, does the manager want the workers to think for themselves? A lot of times not. But if you are a manager yourself, yes, definitely. It's thinking work that you do. It's decision making that you do. And the quality of the decisions you make determine how successful you are. And also to look out for yourself, you need to be thinking for yourself. So yes. Okay, Satchim says, how do I get rid of my non-negotiable notice period of 90 working days? The conditions state that I can't buy out the rest of the working days, and neither can I replace someone else for my position. My next question to you would be, what country are you in? If it's India, you have to look up the labor laws in India, because I know they differ from like where I am, Canada, and the United States. But for example, where I am in Canada, okay, and this applies to certainly a lot of Western countries, most countries in the world, the laws are posted online. You can go read the law yourself. You don't have to, have this confusion as to, oh no, what are the rules? Do I have to work this day? You can easily look that up in like 2 minutes with Google. You could find that law. What does the law state? Does the law state that you have to work out a notice period of 90 days? I don't know what the laws are in whatever region of India you're in or whatever country you're in, but I suspect not. Okay. Now, yes, there's a company saying you have to do this. Now, that could be complete BS, or it might even be in your employment contract. Now, if it's in your employment contract, if it carries any weight, it would then state what the penalty is that you agreed to for not working your notice period of 90 days. So they'd say you have to work 90 days. They can't force you because it's not the law of the land, right? I'm going on that assumption. But then they would say if you don't work your notice period of 90 days, then we would garnish your wages and we'd take out like 20% of your pay every check for that 90-day period. It was something like that. Something like they'd say what the consequence is. Okay, but they can't force you. I mean, look up the employment standards for your area of India, the laws that apply to you and that govern labor law in your region. and find out what it is. And a lot of, like I showed this in the last live stream, you can go and do a search and they'll usually have a phone number for the branch of the government that it's there, like they're the police for like the labor laws. Where I am, it's called employment standards. It's done by not the federal government, but the province, right? And it's a department of the government. Their job is to administer the labor laws and enforce them. And so they'll have a phone number right there, a toll-free number where you could call and just ask questions. Is it okay? My employer tells me I have to do this. Is that okay? Is that true? And they'll say, no. They don't have the right to force you. They can say you should do it. And if you don't do it, then they can take like 10% of your pay, but they can't force you. Okay. So that's how you would navigate these type of situations. Okay. Go right to the source. And I would do a Google search for your region and then employment standards or labor laws. Kakarot, I'm encouraged to ask questions and offer my opinions, just not in time-sensitive situations. Yeah, okay, that's good. I get that. I don't know if I'm phrasing it right. This is Daniel. I don't know if I'm phrasing it right, but I wanted to know, for example, what sort of courses and certificate stuff. I'll give you some advice. Stop using words like stuff and like and kinda. Just say what you mean. Take all those words out. What sort of courses and certificates that I should be getting to build a good CV or a LinkedIn profile? Well, okay, hello, conflict of interest alert. That's one of the things I talk about in my Get Hired course. So there's that, right? But I mean, I don't know. Anyone that gives advice about job search, I suppose. I don't know what course. It seems like everyone and their brother offers a course for that kind of stuff. All I can say is that, like, look, it depends what you want to do with it, okay? Now, I'm biased because I have my own opinion, and I'm not a recruiter. I'm not coming at this from the perspective of a recruiter. I am a business person who has built companies. I've run companies, I've hired people, I've fired people, I've done almost every single HR function myself, and I've taught recruiters in university. So I'm coming from the perspective of CEO. That's why I talk about networking. I talk about bypassing recruiters. I talk about bypassing the HR organization to get the job, get the hiring manager wanting to hire you. And then the hiring manager tells HR, hire this person. Did you do a background check? Is there any reason why we can't? Is there any red flags? No? Okay, hire them. Right? Usually, recruiters don't give you that perspective, okay? Now, if you're wanting to interview solely with recruiters and navigate job interviews with recruiters, then I suppose you could talk to a recruiter, whatever. But I'm giving you the perspective that's not just focused on going through a recruiter, okay? Now, something that you could check yourself, okay, is that the reality is that a lot of worker level jobs, you go through a recruiter, okay? But as you get higher level jobs, you get to be a manager, maybe like a functional manager, like a sales manager, marketing manager, accounting manager, whatever. And then maybe a general manager, mid-level, mid-manager, somewhere in there, leader of a business unit, and then executive level, okay? As you go higher, less and less of those jobs are A, posted publicly, and B, decided by recruiters. Okay? Recruiters do background checks. They schedule interviews. They do that kind of stuff. They're experts they know the labor laws, so they know like working notice periods and drafting employment contracts, stuff like that. But the decisions of who should we hire, which candidate should we go with, those are increasingly not made by recruiters. Those are made by hiring managers, okay? The boss. So, I mean, don't take my word for this. Go and verify it. That's just the reality. Where you get the executive level, 90% of jobs are not posted. They're filled through networking. Okay. Now go and verify that. Don't take my word for anything. If this is all news to you and it sounds kind of fishy, just go and check it. Okay. I'm giving you the sort of job search from my perspective, from the manager perspective. Kakarot says, don't we want to help workers eventually become managers? No, not necessarily. If every one of your worker became a manager, you wouldn't be able to hire them all, right? If you have 100 workers, you might have 20 managers, something like that, maybe, depending on what level we're talking about. And obviously they can't all be managers, right? Also, some people want to be managers and a lot of people don't, right? So it depends what your goals are. Now, if a worker comes to you and say, like, you're the supervisor, you have to supervise 10 people, whatever, and a worker comes to you and says, like, I'd love to be a supervisor. I'd love to one day be a manager. And they have passion for the job. They're easy to deal with. They have great communication skills, all that kind of stuff. If they say, like, look, do you have any advice for me? Like, sure, okay, you might want them to develop their skills, right? But if you don't get that, you get a worker that just, nothing wrong with it, but they're happy being a worker. I mean, that's been the story in my life. I've supervised tradespeople. I started out 30 years ago, whatever, supervising tradespeople, mechanics, electricians, laborers. And a lot of them are just happy being tradespeople. And it's nothing to sneeze at, because if you have some very advanced trade skills, like you're a boilermaker, pipe fitter, there's all the different kinds, you'd be making a lot of money, and you're happy doing that. And you don't want to be a manager. You don't want to deal with that kind of thing. You also never were, you never really did have much higher education beyond trade school. So, all of that combines to have them either be a worker or they could be a supervisor of workers. Maybe when you get to age 60 and you've been welding your entire life, now you're supervising a team of 5 welders, something like that. And people are happy with that, Yes, Satyam, look into it. It's within your best interest to look into that. The more you know about what the laws actually are, don't just rely on the company telling you this is what you have to do, and coincidentally it works entirely in their favor and not in yours. Just verify it. If you pick up that skill, you will have that skill for the rest of your work life, and it will come in handy, because there are a lot of employers that prey upon people's ignorance of the law, and they tell you that the law says this when actually it doesn't. Okay? That has been known a lot. Okay, so just if you know how to verify that'll be very helpful for you. I have to wrap this up soon, but I'll just answer a couple more. Daniel says, thank you so much. That helped a lot. I was trying to land remote jobs because I have some good skills in IT, media marketing, because of the wage gap in different regions. Yeah, that makes sense. And as far as I can tell, this would be the time to do it. People seem to be more open to remote work now than they ever were before 2020, So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so that's what I have to say. So there you go. So hopefully this was helpful to people. Thank you so much for being here. We got some great questions. And like I said, kind of at the beginning, job search it's a thing that not many people enjoy. It's a necessary evil. But the better you get at this stuff, first of all, the better results you get better jobs. Secondly, you lose that fear and nervousness of it. Knowing how all this stuff works, knowing that, okay, all I have to do is this, and then within a reasonable amount of time, something should come along. One last thing here. Education-wise, as long as they demonstrate their leadership skills, why would a higher degree be necessary? Well, look, I mean, people that don't have education tend to think that education is useless. People who have education tend to think that education is the be-all, end-all. I mean, it's like a plumber saying, why should I need to go back to school and learn how to be a plumber to be a plumber? I picked it up and I can do it myself. Why would anyone want to pay to learn how to be a plumber? It's like, well, you might think you know how to be a plumber, but if you actually go to school to learn it properly, it's no contest. It's useful and it's the thing to do. So yes, if you want to be good at business, it's good to learn business. Anytime money comes into the equation, that's business. And business skills will apply. And it's common, though, for a lot of people who don't have a certain qualification to say, why would anyone need that qualification? Well, if you took it, you would know. It's pretty important. Okay. It's like saying, why do I need to learn the thing that I'm talking about to be the thing that I'm talking about? It's like, well, yeah, the more you learn about it, if you learn it properly, you'll be better at it, period. Now, the thing about business, though, is that there's, it's not the be-all, end-all. There still are a lot of idiots out there that have like MBAs and things like this. People that have, their judgment was just bad to begin with. Then they got an MBA and their judgment is still bad, right? Or they just don't understand people at all. They don't get it. They take an MBA, they still don't understand people. There are a few of those. Don't get me wrong. But all things being equal, if they teach you business properly, you'll be better at business. Awesome. Well, thanks to Daniel. Thanks to Karkarat. Thanks to everybody. You guys are awesome. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And check out those courses if that appeals to you. Thank you so much. You guys are great. And I will see you in my next live stream, which is going to be probably next week at the same time. Thank you so much. Take care.